So we're here with Valerie Moses. Valerie is a senior relationship manager with Addition Financial. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Thank you. And I'm happy that we were able to do this. As you know, we've got a really popular post about identity theft that you wrote. And
Yes,
I thought we should talk a little bit more about it and see where it goes.
absolutely.
Great. So,
Absolutely.
so maybe Valerie, you could just start from the top and tell me, a little bit. What is identity theft?
Well, identity theft is when someone uses your information to impersonate you, to maybe open accounts in your name. They can do a lot of different things with your information, and that can be anything from your name and address, your social security number, bank account information, or any other identifying information about you that might not be readily available, that you're not personally giving out on the internet. All of this information can be used, even if someone is arrested, they can use your name. And so it's really important to be mindful and to be aware of identity theft, especially in times of turmoil like a pandemic.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
it's incredible. I find myself checking Credit Karma a lot
Hmm.
to see, if anything is going on. And I know that if I, apply for something, or if there's a credit card, like if there's a credit hit on my credit bureau, I know that Credit Karma will send me a notification. But not everybody is as what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Maybe
I really is on top of it, I would
on
say.
top of it,
Yes.
exactly. I had another word I want to use. So, why should you care about identity theft, or if it happens to me? What are the repercussions?
Well, unfortunately, if identity theft happens to you, it could ultimately affect your credit score, anything that's happening in your name. And just to give you a little idea, your credit and your credit score are really what we consider your reputation as a borrower. People use it to make lending decisions about you and opening accounts, and it can even affect job applications, especially if you're looking to get into the financial services industry. And so anything that a thief does in your name can negatively impact you. And it can ultimately lead to not getting a certain loan that you might need to purchase that dream home or not getting that dream job. And so it's really important to keep an eye out. And we'll talk about ways to spot this, but just to be aware of when it's happening to you so you can stop it in its tracks.
Hmm. Yeah, so you were mentioning. I didn't even think about a job, about
Yeah.
somebody doing a credit check for a job, but that makes perfect sense. And you were mentioning spotting identity theft. I mean, is what I'm doing, a good thing? I mean, is that where it starts, or how do you spot identity theft?
Yes. So I think looking at Credit Karma is a really great option because you are keeping track of any accounts being opened in your name, and you have that awareness. Credit Karma is not always 100% up to date. And so you may not get that information right away. Anecdotally, a friend of mine who was using Credit Karma did find out about an account opened in her name, but it was about 6 months later. And so, what I think is the number one way to really stop it in its tracks, well, really two ways. Check your official credit reports through the three credit bureaus. Those are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You can go to annualcreditreport.com and you can order a free credit report from all three of those one time a year. So, what we often recommend is maybe choose one credit bureau and then 4 months later, choose another
Ah,
one and 4 months later. So then you're not doing all of them at once. They look a little bit different, but they're going to have about the same information on them. And a few things to really be looking out for. One, if you have a very common name or you're a junior or you have a similar name to someone in your family, check the personal information and just make sure that it pertains to you. Make sure that there are no accounts that you're unaware of because unfortunately, those mistakes can happen. And we see this sometimes if someone is a junior, they have accounts that are listed and it's not identity theft, but it might be from a
from
parent
a
from
parent,
before they
right?
were born. So definitely keeping an eye out, making sure all the information, first of all, is correct. And second of all, that there are no inquiries or no accounts that you don't recognize. And then the other really important thing for fraud in general is to be keeping an eye on your checking account every day, keep an eye on those credit card and debit card transactions, and just make sure that you recognize everything that's taking place. Because the sooner you stop it from happening, the better. And so if you do see something fraudulent, with the credit card, you can stop it a little bit, not really have too much of a repercussion if you get to it early. But with the debit card, unfortunately, an identity theft or a scammer could ultimately drain that account. So that's why it's really important to just keep an eye every day. And if you do see something you don't recognize, call the lender, call your credit card company, and just confirm the information in case it is something that's just maybe worded a little bit differently.
That's really
But
good
those are
advice. Yeah. I find myself actually checking my own bank accounts on a daily basis, just to see the movements, and who's, what money is coming in and going out. And I think as I get older, I do it more often,
Mhm.
and then about nothing changes. But it definitely gives me an opportunity to spot when something is a little bit outside of the norm or unexpected.
Exactly. And one thing you do need to be careful about is, oftentimes we can easily recognize those high dollar purchases,
Mhm.
but a lot of times those identity thieves and scammers might do maybe $10
Yeah,
here and there to make
yeah,
sure that the card works.
that's
And that
right.
was how I was able to stop it one time. And just from something that looked pretty normal, and my
Mhm.
credit card company definitely would not have spotted it, but $10 at a grocery store that happened to be one I've never been to before. And
Right.
I was able to see that this is something that, could turn into something much worse.
Definitely. I can totally relate. Do you have any other tips on how to protect yourself from these sorts of scams?
Absolutely. I think that during times like a pandemic or political uncertainty, or really any crisis going on in the world, identity thieves often prey on your sense of fear and your sense of distraction. So it's really, really important to be vigilant. I recommend be really, really careful with email. This is a huge way that scammers can, get a hold of your information. And so when you do receive an email, a lot of times they look to create that sense of urgency. They might impersonate a CEO or an executive in your organization. I once received one from the president of the state association of a professional organization that I'm in, asking me to purchase gift cards and that she would reimburse me. And the email looked pretty legitimate, but then when I went in and looked at the actual sender, it was a complete, spam email address. So I always say, if you get something that looks a little suspicious or out of the ordinary, check that sender and give that person a call. If it's somebody that you do know, give them a call at the confirmed number that you have for them. Some other things just to be mindful of: don't give your social security number out if you can help it. By all means, a lot of times I've been able to zero that out on certain things because they don't need that information. And I think internet safety, making sure that you don't put personal identifying information on a public Wi-Fi network, because people can skim those, or they can even make it look like it's the Starbucks Wi-Fi, but it's actually, someone, skimming and looking to get your information.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of different ways that they do that, especially on the computer. And one other that you need to be mindful of as well is on social media, posting certain information. They can often mine your social media pages, use the information they're finding there, say a pet's name or mother's maiden name, things like
Sure.
that, and use that for those security questions to get into bank accounts and things like
Wow.
that. So be very careful. They are
Wow.
getting smarter and smarter,
I guess where there's a will, there's
unfortunately.
a way.
Exactly. I wish they used it for good.
Yeah.
And then another one just to
Hmm.
be mindful of as well: when you're at the gas station, check the pumps. I know that I'm in the state of Florida. We are notorious, unfortunately, for skimming devices at the gas pump.
Really?
So if there is something when you're scanning your card, you might want to, I look like the crazy person kind of tugging on the machine, making sure nothing comes off. If it does come off, it's not supposed to be there. So if you're ever in doubt at the gas station, you can always go inside, bring in a credit card instead of that debit card for a little extra safety, and put the money on that machine somewhere that's a little bit safer than an area that's, unfortunately, it's often dark, it's harder to patrol. But unfortunately, the gas stations are a huge place where we see, those different types of fraud.
It gives me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
At least me checking my bank accounts. At least I'm doing a few different things. But you've given
Absolutely.
me you've given me some extra things to consider, especially social media. I might actually lock my profile because yeah, it's probably a good idea. But so let's say in the off chance that someone's identity was stolen, so an account was, somebody tried to apply for credit or got approved for credit. What does somebody do? Take me through it. I mean, because I would be panicking.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of different things that you can do to help safeguard, and they will also help you to prevent it from happening in the future. So you can first place a fraud alert on your account. This lets lenders know if they are pulling your credit later on that you are a victim of identity theft. So if your score is compromised or things are still being fixed, they at least know that you are, that you have been a victim. Similarly, they might take more precautions when opening any kind of account because they want to make sure that it's not an identity thief. So place that fraud alert. You contact any one of the 3 credit bureaus, and then they're required to contact the other 2. It's free, it's covered for 1 year. And then if you decide that you want to renew that, you always have that option. I also recommend placing a freeze on your credit. And this is something I recommend really for anyone who's not planning on applying for new credit in the near future. When you place that freeze on your credits, on your credit report, no one can pull your credit. So without your knowledge, you have to unfreeze it in order for them to do that. So
even for a soft pull?
For a soft pull, no. But if you were applying for, for a car loan or any type of really
Something
applying
new.
for anything, yes. If you're applying for new credit, they are unable, it is completely blocked. So you will not be able to have that pulled. If you would like to have, if you would like to apply for something later, you get a pin and you're able to unfreeze it. But it just is an extra safeguard so that no one else can pull your credit during that time. I did that when I was a victim through a data breach, and that has been really helpful for me. But again, it is something to be mindful of. When I did need to open an account somewhere, I actually realized I didn't actually unfreeze that credit, and so I needed to take care of that before doing that.
So how do you freeze your credit?
You go through the credit bureaus as well. You go to each credit bureau and you place a freeze, and it's on their websites as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So it's free. Anybody can do this.
Yes, it used to cost money to do that. Now, if you're a victim of identity theft, those services were free anyway, but now this is completely free service because it is something, unfortunately, with the pandemic and with everything going on in the world, and with scammers getting smarter and smarter, unfortunately, it really is something that, identity theft just gets worse and worse every year, unfortunately. So those are 2 safeguards that you can, put in. You want to order your credit reports as well and look through, see any fraudulent information, and then to correct it, you want to call the companies and let them know. You can file an identity theft report through the FTC at identitytheft.gov. And that creates this little report for you that you can use as additional proof when you're contacting those companies to let them know, hey, this was not me, this is not my account. Or if they are using your account, hey, this activity was not me. And so that's a little bit of extra proof that you have. So calling those companies, and then once they do agree that they will take certain things off, you want to get that in writing as well, just for that little extra safeguard. But those are just some things that you can do if you are a victim of identity theft, and that will help you in the long run, especially that fraud alert and the credit freeze, just to kind of prevent it from happening in the future, and to alert lenders when you are applying for different accounts that, hey, this has happened to you in the past.
That's really good advice. And anything else that I missed or that I should know about for?
Sure. During the pandemic, I would say there have been some new scams that have come up. There are always new scams, unfortunately. But some things to keep in mind with stimulus checks, a lot of people have seen fraud from the IRS. So, something to keep in mind there is that the IRS does not ever contact you by email, by text, by phone. Unfortunately, when I've called the IRS, it's hard to even get to a person.
So how would they call me if they don't have phones?
So if,
No, that
if the
makes sense.
IRS, yeah, if the IRS is trying to get in touch with you, they will do that by mail. So don't click anything that comes through.
Okay.
Look for anything that is marked urgent on any communications you receive. And then another thing that has happened a lot during the pandemic, unfortunately, is that scammers are also preying on our sense of goodwill. We see other people going through a difficult time and we want to help. And so if you get any communications, maybe from a charity that you've never worked with in the past, you can confirm their legitimacy through a site like Charity Watch or Charity Navigator to make sure it's a real organization that's truly helping people. And I would be wary of clicking any links in those as well in case they are actually impersonating that organization, and instead go directly through the website or through a confirmed phone number that you have.
Yeah.
Those are just a few.
Yeah. Actually, I found myself doing something similar.
Yeah.
Receiving an email from whoever asking me to log in somewhere. I know, for example, PayPal. If I get an email, and there was a time where I was getting tons of emails from PayPal, which weren't actually from PayPal. And what I would do is I would actually just type in paypal.com in my browser. I would never click the link. I would just go directly to PayPal myself. And of course, it was all fraud. I mean, I suspected it to begin with, but yeah, no, that's great advice. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. I think email is a huge way that these scammers can get to your information, and they're getting better and better at impersonating those emails. So, absolutely, like you said, logging into those accounts directly and never actually clicking the links in the emails, because if they do send you to a login information, a login page, they're looking to, mine that information to use later on.
Sure.
But if you log in directly through paypal.com, you're a lot safer.
Yeah, this is all really good information, Valerie. Thank you so much for joining me on this little chit chat today about identity theft.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed getting to share a little bit about, keeping your information safe, and I wish everyone the best of luck.
Great. Well, if anybody wants to contact you, how would they be able to reach out to you for more information?
Absolutely. We have a ton of information about identity theft on our website, resources.additionfi.com. And similarly, we have a podcast, Making It Count, on Apple, Google, and Spotify, and other podcast apps as well, where you can learn from some of our cybersecurity experts about fraud prevention during a pandemic and other financial topics as well.
That's great. And by the way, we put all of the links to these in the description below. So you guys who are watching, go ahead and take a look at the description, and you'll be able to follow along and learn more about preventing identity theft.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Valerie. It's been great.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.